A middle-aged janitor named Marcus is humiliated and fired by a corporate manager named Derek Brennan at NovaCore Technologies. But when Marcus's true identity is revealed, the entire company is left speechless. What happened and who really is Marcus that made the whole corporation suddenly realize they were facing not just a wrongful termination but a complete restructuring of everything they knew? Let's find out. But before we get into the story, comment below where you're watching from today. And if you like this story, don't forget to subscribe. It was 6:30 a.m. at the NovaCore Technologies headquarters in downtown San Francisco. The sun was just beginning to cut through the morning fog, casting a golden glow on the sleek glass building that housed one of the fastest-growing tech companies in Silicon Valley. The lobby was quiet, with only security guards and early arrivals moving through the space. The smell of fresh coffee from the ground floor cafe drifted through the air. Among the early morning workers was Marcus, a man in his early 50s with graying hair and kind eyes. He wore a dark blue janitor's uniform with NovaCore Facilities embroidered on the chest. His sneakers squeaked softly against the polished marble floors as he pushed a cleaning cart down the hallway. Despite the humble uniform, there was something about his posture, straight-backed, confident, that suggested he carried himself differently than most people in his position. Marcus had been working the early morning shift for 3 weeks now. He greeted the security guard, James, with a warm smile. "Morning, James. How's your daughter's soccer season going?" James looked up from his desk, surprised and pleased. Marcus. She scored 2 goals last weekend. Thanks for asking." Marcus nodded, genuinely interested. "That's wonderful. Tell her to keep practicing those corner kicks." He moved past the security desk, pulling out his phone to check a message from his wife, Linda. "Stay safe down there. Dinner at 7. He typed back quickly. "Wouldn't miss it. Love you." The truth was, Marcus didn't need this job. He didn't need any job, but he had his reasons for being here, reasons that would soon become crystal clear. As Marcus entered the 5th-floor office area of the sales division, he began his routine, emptying trash cans, wiping down desks, vacuuming the open floor plan workspace. The floor was still mostly empty, just a few eager salespeople arriving early to get a head start on calls. Marcus worked methodically, observing quietly. He had always believed that you learned the truth about a company not from the boardroom, but from the ground floor. At 7:15 a.m., the elevator doors opened, and Derek Brennan stepped out. Derek was the sales division manager, a man in his late 30s with slicked-back hair, an expensive navy suit, and a Rolex that caught the light with every gesture. He carried himself with the aggressive confidence of someone who had climbed the corporate ladder by stepping on others. His cologne arrived before he did, an overwhelming wave of designer fragrance. Derek was on his phone, talking loudly. "I don't care what engineering says. Tell them we need that feature by Friday or heads will roll. I've got quotas to hit." He ended the call abruptly and looked around the office with an expression of barely concealed disdain. His eyes landed on Marcus, who was quietly cleaning a desk near the window. "Hey, you!" Derek called out, not bothering with pleasantries. "You missed a spot over there by the printer." Marcus turned calmly, meeting Derek's eyes. "Good morning. I'll get to that section in a few minutes. I'm working my way around the room systematically." Derek's eyes narrowed. Something about the janitor's tone, polite but not subservient, rubbed him the wrong way. "I don't care about your system. I'm telling you there's a mess by the printer. Are you going to clean it or not?" Marcus maintained his composure. "Of course. I'll take care of it right away." He moved his cart toward the printer area, where there was indeed a small spill. Someone had knocked over a coffee cup. As Marcus cleaned the spill, Derek stood over him, arms crossed. "You know, I've been watching the cleaning staff around here. Frankly, I'm not impressed. This floor should be spotless, and I'm seeing dust on the windowsills, smudges on the glass conference rooms. What exactly are we paying you people for? Marcus looked up, his voice steady. We do our best with the time and resources allocated. If there are specific concerns, I'd be happy to pass them along to the facilities coordinator. Derek scoffed. Pass them along? How about you just do your job better? He pulled out his phone and snapped a photo of a barely visible smudge on a nearby glass wall. See this? Unacceptable. I'm documenting this. By now, a few salespeople had arrived and were watching the interaction uncomfortably. One young woman, Chen, looked like she wanted to say something but remained silent. Marcus stood up slowly, meeting Derek's gaze. Sir, I understand you have standards. May I ask your name so I can address your concerns properly? Derek's face flushed with annoyance. You don't need my name. You need to know that I'm the person who can make your life very difficult around here. He stepped closer, invading Marcus's personal space. I don't like your attitude. You're here to clean, not to question me. Do you understand? Marcus took a small step back, not out of fear, but out of respect for boundaries. I understand you're frustrated. I'm simply trying to do my job effectively. Your job? Derek's voice rose. Let me tell you about your job. Your job is to be invisible, to clean and get out of the way, not to talk back, not to make eye contact, not to act like you're on the same level as the people who actually matter in this company. The office had gone completely quiet now. Several employees were watching, some with their phones out, recording. Chen finally spoke up, her voice hesitant. Derek, I think, not now, Sarah. Derek snapped, not taking his eyes off Marcus. I'm handling this. Marcus remained calm, but something flickered in his eyes, a brief flash of recognition, of understanding. He had seen enough. Sir, I don't want any trouble. I'll make sure the floor meets your standards. Too late for that, Derek said, a cold smile spreading across his face. You know what? I don't think you're cut out for this job. You've got an attitude problem. And I don't tolerate attitude problems on my floor. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number. Yeah, this is Derek Brennan from sales. I need someone from HR up on 5 immediately. I'm terminating a facilities worker for insubordination. Marcus's expression didn't change, but he set down his cleaning supplies carefully. You're firing me? That's right. Pack up your cart and get out. I want you off this floor in 5 minutes. A woman in her early 40s stepped off the elevator. Jennifer Walsh, an HR coordinator. She looked confused and slightly alarmed. Derek, what's going on? Derek pointed at Marcus. This janitor has been disrespectful and refused to follow direct instructions. I want him terminated immediately. Jennifer looked at Marcus, then back at Derek. Derek, we can't just fire someone on the spot without documentation or... Are you questioning me? Derek's voice turned icy. I'm a division manager. This falls under my authority. This employee is creating a hostile work environment with his attitude. I'm making an executive decision. Process the paperwork. Jennifer shifted uncomfortably. I'll need to call my supervisor. Then call them, Derek said. But this man leaves now. Marcus stood quietly, his hands folded in front of him. He didn't argue, didn't plead. He simply watched Derek with an expression that was impossible to read. Part sadness, part disappointment, and something else. Something that almost looked like pity. Chen stepped forward, her voice stronger now. This isn't right. He didn't do anything wrong. Derek, you're being completely unreasonable. Derek wheeled on her. Sarah, unless you want to be updating your resume, I suggest you get back to your desk. The threat hung in the air. Sarah's jaw clenched, but she stepped back. Marcus finally spoke, his voice calm but carrying a weight that made several people look up. It's all right, Sarah. Thank you for speaking up. That took courage. He turned to Derek. Mr. Brennan, I'll leave as you've requested, but I want you to know something. This isn't over. Derek laughed, a harsh sound. Is that a threat? From a janitor? Please. Not a threat, Marcus said quietly. Just a fact. He began pushing his cart toward the elevator. As he passed Sarah, he said softly, "Keep speaking up. That's what real leadership looks like." The elevator doors closed on Marcus's calm face, and he descended toward the lobby, leaving behind a floor full of uncomfortable employees and one very satisfied Derek Brennan. What none of them knew, what Derek Brennan especially didn't know, was that the man in the janitor's uniform wasn't just an employee. He wasn't just a facilities worker trying to make ends meet. Marcus was about to teach Derek and everyone at NovaCore a lesson they would never forget. The HR department on the third floor of NovaCore was buzzing with its usual morning activity. Recruiters reviewed resumes, coordinators scheduled interviews, and managers prepared for performance reviews. In a small office near the back, Jennifer Walsh sat at her desk, staring at her computer screen with growing unease. She had just filed the termination paperwork for the facilities worker, Marcus, according to his badge, and something about the whole situation sat wrong with her. In her 15 years at NovaCore, she had processed hundreds of terminations, but never one that felt this off. Jennifer pulled up Marcus's employee file. It was surprisingly sparse. Hired 3 weeks ago, background check cleared, direct deposit set up to a personal account, but there were odd details. His emergency contact listed a woman named Linda Chen with a phone number that, when Jennifer cross-referenced it out of curiosity, seemed to be a private line, not a typical contact number. "Hey, Jennifer," called out Tom Martinez, her supervisor and the head of HR. He was a heavy-set man in his 50s, with reading glasses perpetually perched on his forehead. "I heard you processed an immediate termination this morning. What happened?" Jennifer looked up. "Derek Brennan called me up to the sales floor, said a janitor was being insubordinate, wanted him terminated on the spot." Tom frowned, walking over to her desk. "Derek Brennan? That guy's been a thorn in our side for months. We've had 3 complaints about his management style just this quarter." He looked at the screen. "Did the employee do something that warranted immediate termination?" "Not that I could see," Jennifer admitted. "I got there, and the janitor, Marcus, was just standing there calmly. Derek was the one yelling, but Derek pulled rank, said it was his executive decision." Tom's frown deepened. "Let me see that file." Jennifer pulled it up, and Tom leaned in, scrolling through the information. His eyes caught on something, and he went very still. "Jennifer, what's the employee number here?" "EC2401. "Why?" Tom's face had gone pale. He clicked to a different screen, typed something, and then stared at the results. "Jennifer, do you know what EC stands for in our employee numbering system?" "Executive consultant? But that can't be right. He was facilities, not executive consultant," Tom interrupted, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "Executive class? EC numbers are reserved for C-suite executives and board members." He turned to look at Jennifer. "Did you check his full profile, not just the facilities assignment?" Jennifer's stomach dropped. She clicked through to the master employee database, entered the employee number with her admin credentials, and watched as a different profile loaded. Her eyes widened. "Oh my God," she whispered. The screen showed a completely different picture. Employee name, Marcus Chen. Title, Chief Executive Officer and Founder. Date of hire, 2018, company founding. Reporting structure, reports to Board of Directors. Current assignment, Undercover Workplace Culture Assessment. Authorized by Board, confidential. Tom grabbed the edge of the desk to steady himself. "We just terminated the CEO." But I don't understand, Jennifer said, her voice shaking. Why would the CEO be working as a janitor? Tom was already pulling up his phone, scrolling through news articles. He found one from 6 months ago. NovaCore CEO Marcus Chen announces Undercover initiative. I need to see my company through the eyes of every employee. He read aloud. Chen, known for his unconventional management style, stated he would be working in various entry-level positions across NovaCore to better understand the employee experience and identify areas for cultural improvement. I remember that announcement, Jennifer said, the memory flooding back. But I thought it was just PR. I didn't think He actually did it, Tom said grimly. And Derek Brennan just publicly humiliated and fired him. He looked at Jennifer. We need to call the executive suite right now. Meanwhile, up on the 5th floor, Derek Brennan was feeling triumphant. He stood at the head of the sales floor, addressing his team. Let that be a lesson to everyone. I don't care who you are. If you don't meet my standards, you're out. Now, let's get to work. We've got quarterly numbers to hit. But Sarah Chen, who had witnessed the entire encounter, wasn't ready to let it go. She pulled out her phone during her break and posted to the company's internal message board, a Slack channel called NovaCore Culture that the CEO himself had created months ago to encourage open dialogue. Her message was simple. Today I watched a manager publicly humiliate and fire a facilities worker for absolutely no reason except a power trip. The worker was polite and professional. The manager was cruel. Is this who we are as a company? Within minutes, responses started flooding in. Other employees had witnessed the incident. Some had recorded it on their phones. The video started circulating internally, showing Derek's aggressive stance, his demeaning words, and Marcus's calm dignity throughout. One comment from an employee in engineering caught attention. Wait, is that Marcus from facilities? He helped me carry equipment last week and asked really insightful questions about our product development process. Way too knowledgeable for a regular janitor. Who is this guy? Another from marketing. I had lunch with Marcus in the cafeteria. He asked me about our company values and whether I felt they were being lived out in my department. I thought it was an odd question at the time. The pieces were starting to come together for the employees, but nobody had the full picture yet. Not yet. Back in HR, Tom Martinez was on the phone with the executive assistant to the board of directors, a sharp woman named Patricia Gomez. His voice was urgent. Patricia, we have a situation. Derek Brennan just terminated Marcus Chen. There was a long pause on the other end. I'm sorry, did you just say Derek Brennan terminated Marcus Chen? As in, our Marcus Chen? Yes, he was doing his undercover work on the sales floor, and Derek fired him for insubordination. Patricia's voice turned ice cold. I'm conferring an emergency board meeting. How fast can you get documentation of exactly what happened? We have witness statements and video. I can have it to you in 30 minutes. Make it 20, Patricia said. This company is about to have a very bad day. She paused. Where's Marcus now? I don't know, Tom admitted. He left the building about 40 minutes ago. Find him, Patricia ordered. And Tom, keep this quiet until we decide how to handle it. If Marcus looked up at her, his expression tired but not surprised. I knew it would happen eventually. I just hoped it would take longer. Linda sat down across from him. Marcus, you've built this company from nothing. You don't have to subject yourself to this kind of treatment to prove a point. I'm not trying to prove a point, Marcus said. I'm trying to understand what's really happening in my own company. And now I know. He pulled out his phone and opened the NovaCore internal Slack. The NovaCore Culture channel was exploding with activity. Linda read over his shoulder. They're connecting the dots. Some of them are, Marcus agreed, but not all. That's the problem. We've grown so fast, 12,000 employees in 6 years, that we've lost touch with our founding principles. People like Derek Brennan slip through the cracks. build little kingdoms, and create toxic environments. And the people at the top, people like me, we don't see it because we're too removed. His phone rang. The caller ID showed Patricia Gomez, executive board assistant. Marcus answered. Patricia. Marcus, thank God. Tom Martinez just called me. I'm organizing an emergency board meeting. We need you here. What's the urgency? Marcus asked, though he already knew. The internal channels are on fire. Employees are demanding answers. Some of them have figured out who you are. The Wall Street Journal just called asking if it's true that NovaCore's CEO was fired by a middle manager. Marcus, this is gonna be everywhere by tomorrow morning if we don't get ahead of it. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Good. Good? Patricia sounded incredulous. Marcus, this is a PR nightmare. No, Marcus said calmly. This is exactly what I needed to happen. Patricia, call the board meeting, but make it open to all employees. Live stream it to everyone. I want full transparency. Marcus, I don't think. Patricia, trust me, I'll be there in an hour. And Patricia, call Derek Brennan. Tell him his attendance is mandatory. After he hung up, Linda gave him a knowing look. You're really going to do this? Marcus stood up, beginning to change out of the uniform. Linda, I've spent 3 weeks working as a janitor, an IT support tech, and a cafeteria worker. I've seen how the other half of my company lives. I've heard what they really think when they don't know the CEO is listening. And what I've learned is that we have a culture problem, a serious one. Derek Brennan is just a symptom. So what's the cure? Linda asked. Marcus pulled on a crisp white shirt. The truth, all of it, back at NovaCore headquarters, the executive suite was in chaos. The emergency board meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m., less than 2 hours away. Word had spread through unofficial channels that something major was happening. Employees were gathering in clusters, speculating wildly. In the legal department, Chief Legal Officer Rebecca Thornton was reviewing the termination paperwork with growing horror. She called Tom Martinez directly. Tom, please tell me this isn't real. Please tell me we didn't just create a wrongful termination case against our own CEO. It's real, Rebecca, Tom said. And it gets worse. I've been pulling Derek Brennan's file. We've had 12 formal complaints about his management style in the past 18 months. 12, all of them buried by his director, never escalated to executive leadership. Rebecca closed her eyes. This is a failure at every level of the organization. It's what Marcus was looking for, Tom said quietly. Don't you see? He wasn't trying to catch one bad manager. He was trying to expose systematic failures in how we handle toxic behavior. On the sales floor, Derek Brennan was getting increasingly agitated. He'd been summoned to a board meeting via a terse email from Patricia Gomez, and the tone of the message suggested he was in serious trouble. He tried calling his director, Richard Palmer, but the call went straight to voicemail. Derek refreshed the internal Slack channel for the 100th time. The messages were getting more explicit. Has anyone else noticed that Marcus the janitor asked really specific questions about company culture? I found an article from 6 months ago. The CEO announced an undercover program. Do you think? Oh my God, I just looked at the security badge photo in the archives. Marcus from facilities is Marcus Chen. Same face. Derek's blood ran cold. He pulled up a Google image search for Marcus Chen, NovaCore CEO, and felt the room start to spin. The same kind eyes, the same face, just cleaned up and in a suit instead of a janitor's uniform. He had just fired the billionaire founder of the company. Sarah Chen appeared at his desk. Derek, did you see the messages? Get away from my desk, Derek snapped, but his voice lacked its usual venom. He was too busy panicking. You didn't know? Did you? Sarah said, and there was something in her tone that wasn't quite sympathy. It was closer to satisfaction. You fired Marcus Chen. That's impossible, Derek said weakly. The CEO wouldn't work as a janitor. He would, and he did. It was announced months ago. Most of us thought it was just PR. Sarah leaned against the cubicle wall. But he actually did it. And you, Derek, you showed him exactly who you really are. Derek's face had gone from red to pale. I need to fix this. You need to go to that board meeting, Sarah interrupted, and you need to face what you've done. At 1:30 p.m., Marcus Chen walked through the front doors of NovaCore headquarters, this time wearing a charcoal gray suit, his hair neatly combed, looking every inch the billionaire CEO he actually was. James, the security guard, did a double take. Mr. Chen? Marcus smiled warmly. It's still Marcus, James. How are you doing? I'm fine, sir. I didn't realize. I know, Marcus said gently. That was the point. Thank you for being kind to me these past few weeks. You treated me with respect when I was just a janitor. That says a lot about your character. As Marcus walked through the lobby toward the elevators, employees started noticing. Whispers spread like wildfire. That's him. That's the CEO, the one who was fired this morning. People pulled out their phones, some to record, others to frantically text colleagues. Marcus rode the elevator to the executive floor, where Patricia Gomez met him with a tablet and a worried expression. Marcus, the auditorium is at capacity. We've had to set up overflow rooms with live stream. Every employee who's not on a critical call is tuned in. The press is gathering outside. The board is assembled and waiting. Are you sure about this? Marcus looked at her steadily. I've never been more sure of anything. Let's go. The NovaCore auditorium could seat 500 people, and every seat was filled. Overflow rooms on 3 different floors were packed with employees watching on large screens. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation and anxiety. Nobody knew exactly what was about to happen, but everyone sensed it would be historic. On stage, a long table was set up with nameplates for the board of directors. Patricia Gomez stood at a podium on the side. As 2 p.m. approached, the board members began filing out. 6 distinguished individuals who represented investors, industry veterans, and advisors. Then Derek Brennan was escorted in by HR. He looked like he might vomit. He was directed to a single chair positioned front and center, facing both the board and the audience. It was a witness chair, and everyone recognized it as such. Finally, Marcus Chen walked onto the stage. The room erupted in whispers, gasps, and a few scattered applause. He looked different from the humble janitor of that morning, but also exactly the same calm dignity, the same kind eyes, now focused and purposeful. Marcus took his seat at the center of the board table and leaned forward to the microphone. The room fell silent. Good afternoon, he said, his voice resonant and clear. My name is Marcus Chen. I founded this company 8 years ago in a garage with 2 friends and a dream. Today, we employ 12,000 people and generate $3 billion in annual revenue. We've changed the way businesses manage data. We've created technology that matters. He paused, looking out at the sea of faces. But somewhere along the way, as we grew, we lost something essential. We lost sight of what really matters. The people who make this company possible. Every single person, regardless of their title or position. Marcus gestured to a large screen behind him. 6 months ago, I announced to the board, though not to the public, that I would be conducting an undercover workplace culture assessment. I would work in various entry-level positions throughout our company to experience firsthand what it's like to be an employee at NovaCore when you're not the CEO. The screen lit up with photos. Marcus in an IT support uniform, Marcus in the cafeteria serving lunch, Marcus in the janitor's uniform. Over 3 weeks, I worked in facilities management. I cleaned floors, emptied trash, and maintained our offices. And what I learned was both inspiring and deeply troubling. He looked directly at Derek Brennan, who was shrinking in his chair. This morning, I experienced something that no employee should ever experience. I was publicly humiliated, berated, and fired, not for poor performance, not for violation of policy, but because a manager decided he could treat someone he perceived as powerless with complete contempt. The room was absolutely silent. Everyone was leaning forward. Marcus continued, his voice steady but carrying an edge of steel. Derek Brennan, the sales division manager, demonstrated this morning what toxic leadership looks like. But here's what's important. Derek Brennan is not an anomaly. He's a symptom of a system that failed. He clicked to the next slide, showing a data visualization. This chart represents formal complaints filed in the past 18 months. We received 247 complaints about management behavior across all departments. Of those, 189 were never escalated past the departmental director level. They were buried, dismissed, handled quietly. The number on the screen seemed to glow with accusation. 189. Derek Brennan had 12 formal complaints filed against him. 12 employees found the courage to report his behavior, and all 12 complaints were buried by his direct supervisor, Richard Palmer, who decided it was more important to protect a high-performing sales manager than to protect the culture of this company. Marcus's voice grew stronger. But the failure doesn't end with Richard Palmer. It extends to our executive team, including me, for creating a system where this could happen, for moving so fast that we stopped listening, for prioritizing growth metrics over human dignity. He stood up, walking to the front of the stage. I'm going to do something unusual now. I'm going to play you a recording. He nodded to Patricia, who queued up an audio file. Derek's voice filled the auditorium. Your job is to be invisible, to clean and get out of the way, not to talk back, not to make eye contact, not to act like you're on the same level as the people who actually matter in this company. The audience reaction was visceral, gasps, mutters of disapproval, a few audible expressions of disgust. Those words, Marcus said quietly, reveal everything wrong with our culture. The idea that some people matter and others don't, that someone's value is determined by their job title rather than their humanity. He turned to Derek directly. Mr. Brennan, I want you to know something. The person you fired this morning was polite to you. He was respectful. He tried to de-escalate the situation, but you perceived that courtesy as insubordination because, in your worldview, someone in his position had no right to be treated with dignity. Derek's face was scarlet. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Marcus turned back to the audience. Here's what I learned during my 3 weeks undercover. Most of our employees are incredible people who genuinely care about this company. I met janitors who took pride in their work, IT support staff who went above and beyond to help colleagues, cafeteria workers who remembered people's dietary restrictions and greeted them by name. These are the people who make NovaCore work, and we've been taking them for granted. The screen changed to show a series of testimonials, names redacted, but quotes clear. I've worked here 3 years and never spoken to anyone above my direct manager. When I reported harassment, I was told to be a team player and move on. I love the company's mission, but the culture makes me want to quit every day. Marcus let the words sink in. This ends now. Today, effective immediately, I'm announcing the following changes. The screen shifted to bullet points as Marcus read them aloud. 1. We are implementing an independent ethics hotline managed by an external firm where any employee can report concerns with guaranteed anonymity and guaranteed investigation. 2. We are creating an ombudsperson position reporting directly to the board, whose sole job is to investigate cultural complaints and ensure they are handled appropriately. 3. We are instituting mandatory training for all managers on respectful workplace conduct, with failure to complete the training resulting in removal from management positions. 4. We are conducting a comprehensive third-party audit of our HR practices and management structures to identify systemic failures. 5. We are establishing a dignity charter that will be incorporated into every employment contract, every manager evaluation, and every company decision. He paused, then added, and 6. Effective immediately, Derek Brennan is terminated for cause, not for firing a janitor, but for creating a hostile work environment, for a pattern of abusive behavior, and for representing values that are antithetical to everything this company should stand for. Derek shot to his feet. You can't do this! I've hit every sales target. My division is the highest performing. Results, Marcus interrupted, his voice cutting through Derek's protest. Do not justify cruelty. Ever. We will not be a company that tolerates abuse in the name of performance metrics. Derek looked around desperately, as if searching for an ally, but found none. Even his own team members in the audience were stone-faced or looking away. Security will escort you to collect your personal belongings, Marcus said. Your access has been terminated. Your severance package will be minimal, as allowed under termination for cause. As security approached Derek, Marcus added one more thing. Mr. Brennan, I genuinely hope you take this as an opportunity for reflection. You're talented, you're capable, but talent without character is worthless. I hope you find a way to become a better person. Derek was led out, and the room remained silent until the doors closed behind him. Marcus returned to the table and sat down, his expression softening slightly. I know this is uncomfortable. I know some of you are wondering if you'll be next, but that's not what this is about. This is about building the company we claim to be, the company we should be. After Derek was removed, Marcus gestured for the next person to approach the stage. Richard, conversations that clearly had no effect, Marcus said. Richard, I'm going to ask you a direct question. Did you bury those complaints because you were afraid that losing Derek would hurt your own performance metrics? That your bonus might be affected? That you might look bad to executive leadership? Richard's silence was answer enough. Marcus sighed. Richard, you're not terminated, but you are demoted, effective immediately. You are no longer sales director. You'll be reassigned to a senior sales position. No management responsibilities. You'll be required to complete the management training program. And if, after 1 year, you've demonstrated genuine growth and understanding, we'll revisit your leadership potential. Richard nodded stiffly. His career trajectory suddenly derailed. I understand, Mr. War. Chen, I hope you do, Marcus said gently, because you're a cautionary tale about what happens when we prioritize the wrong things. As Richard left the stage, Marcus addressed the broader room. I want everyone in this audience who holds a management position, from team leads to directors, to hear this. Your job is not just to hit metrics. Your job is to build people up, to create an environment where everyone can do their best work, to protect your team, not just from external threats, but from internal toxicity. If you can't do that, you shouldn't be in management. He looked at Patricia Gomez. Patricia, can you bring up the slide on structural changes? The screen shifted to show an organizational chart. We're flattening our management structure. We've become too hierarchical, with too many layers between the people doing the work and the people making decisions. We're reducing management tiers from 7 to 4. This will be disruptive, and it will be uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Murmurs spread through the audience, some concerned, some approving. Marcus continued, I also want to address something I've heard repeatedly during my undercover work. Many of you feel disconnected from leadership. You feel like your voices don't matter. So here's another change. Starting next month, I will hold monthly open forums, just like this, where any employee can ask me anything. No filters, no PR handlers, real questions, real answers. A hand went up in the audience. Marcus gestured toward it. Yes, a young woman in her 20s stood up nervously. Mr. Chen, I'm Priya Sharma from engineering. My question is, how do we know this isn't just a one-time thing? How do we know that once the attention dies down, things won't just go back to the way they were? It was a fair question, and Marcus respected her courage in asking it. Priya, that's exactly the right question to ask, and the honest answer is, you don't know. Not yet. You'll have to watch and see if we follow through. But I'm making a commitment to you, to everyone here. I will personally be accountable for these changes. And if I fail, I expect you to hold me accountable. Post on the internal forums. Email me directly. My inbox is open. My door is open. Another hand went up. Mike Trenton, sales. Sir, with all due respect, Derek was a jerk, but he also brought in $40 million in revenue last year. How do we hit our numbers without him? Marcus smiled slightly. Mike, I appreciate the concern about numbers, but here's what I learned working with the sales team. Derek's division had the highest turnover rate in the company, 60% annual turnover. Do you know how much it costs to replace an employee? Between recruitment, training, and lost productivity, about 150% of their annual salary. Derek's division had 45 people. You do the math. He let that sink in. We were losing more money replacing the people Derek drove away than we were making from his sales performance. And that doesn't even account for the intangible costs, the damaged morale, the fear, the stress-related health issues. The room was nodding now. The math made sense. We don't succeed by burning through people, Marcus said. We succeed by building a place where talented people want to stay, where they can grow, where they're treated with respect. Sarah Chen, who had stood up to Derek that morning, raised her hand. Marcus recognized her immediately. Sarah, you were very brave this morning. What's your question? Sarah stood, her voice steady. Mr. Chen, I appreciate everything you're saying, but I need to know, what happens to people like me who speak up? Because I stood up to Derek today, and before all this came out, I was terrified I'd be fired for it. How do you protect whistleblowers? Another excellent question, Marcus said, and the answer is already in motion. Patricia Gomez stepped to the podium. As of today, we're implementing a whistleblower protection policy. Any employee who reports misconduct in good faith will be protected from retaliation. Any manager who retaliates will be immediately terminated. And Sarah, specifically, I want to thank you publicly. You stood up when it was hard. That's leadership. Sarah sat down, and Marcus could see tears in her eyes. Marcus looked around the room, meeting as many eyes as he could. I know some of you are thinking, this is all well and good, but will it really change anything? And I'm telling you, it has to, because if we can't get this right, if we can't build a company where every person feels valued, then we don't deserve to succeed. He paused, his voice dropping slightly. I built this company because I believed we could do technology differently. Not just better products, but better ethics, better culture, better humanity, and I failed at that. I let things slip. I got too focused on growth and lost sight of what matters. This morning, when Derek fired me, it was humiliating, it was dehumanizing, and it was exactly what I needed to experience to understand how far we'd strayed. The room was completely silent, hanging on every word. So, here's my commitment to all of you. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not stepping down. I'm staying right here, doing this work, fixing these problems, and I'm going to need your help. Every single one of you, because culture isn't built by executives in boardrooms. It's built by every interaction, every decision, every moment. When we choose kindness over cruelty. He stood up, signaling the formal part of the meeting was ending. We've got a lot of work ahead of us, but I believe in this company. I believe in you. Let's build something worth being proud of. The room erupted in applause, not polite corporate applause, but genuine, sustained, emotional applause. Some people were crying. Others were standing. It was cathartic. As the applause faded, Marcus added one more thing. Oh, and one final note. I'll be returning to undercover work periodically. You won't know when, and you won't know where. So, I'd suggest treating everyone, with the respect they deserve, because you never know who you're really talking to. A ripple of nervous laughter spread through the room. But the message was clear. Within hours, the story had exploded beyond NovaCore's walls. Someone, probably multiple someones, had leaked video footage and internal messages to the press. By 6 p.m., every major tech news outlet was running the story. TechCrunch, NovaCore CEO fired while working undercover, then fires the manager who did it. The Wall Street Journal, Chen's radical transparency. Tech CEO exposes toxic culture at his own company. Wired, the janitor who was actually a billionaire. One CEO's unusual approach to corporate reform. Marcus sat in his corner office on the 15th floor, watching the news coverage on multiple screens while his phone buzzed incessantly with interview requests. Linda sat across from him, shaking her head in amazement. "You're trending on Twitter," she said, scrolling through her phone. "Janitor CEO is the #1 topic worldwide." "I didn't do this for the publicity," Marcus said, though he looked tired. "I know," Linda said gently, "but you can't put this genie back in the bottle. The world is watching now." A knock on the door announced Patricia Gomez. She entered with a tablet and a wry expression. "Marcus, you have 17 requests for interviews, including Good Morning America, 60 Minutes, and The Today Show. Harvard Business School wants to do a case study, and you're getting calls from CEOs at 15 other companies asking how they can implement similar programs." Marcus rubbed his temples. "I'm not trying to be a corporate culture guru, Patricia." "Too late," she said, not unkindly. "You've become the face of workplace reform, whether you wanted to or not." She handed him the tablet. "But here's what matters. The response from our employees has been overwhelmingly positive. Internal surveys are showing a 40-point jump in leadership approval in just 6 hours. The NovaCore Culture channel has exploded with employees sharing their own stories, both good and bad, and feeling heard for the first time." She swiped to another screen. "And this is interesting. We've had 23 applications for jobs in the last 3 hours. People want to work for a company that's serious about culture." Marcus looked up. "Any resignations?" Patricia hesitated. 4. 3 were managers who were probably worried they'd be next. One was Derek's assistant, who apparently couldn't handle the shame by association. "Make sure the assistant gets a good reference," Marcus said immediately. "She didn't do anything wrong." "Already done," Patricia confirmed. Over the next few days, the impact continued to ripple outward. Other tech companies found themselves under scrutiny. Were they fostering toxic cultures? Were they listening to their employees? Some companies announced their own cultural audits. Others went on the defensive. A week later, Marcus received an unexpected call from Derek Brennan. "Mr. Chen," Derek's voice was subdued. nothing like his earlier arrogance. "I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from." "I'm listening," Marcus said neutrally. "I've been doing a lot of thinking this week, a lot of very uncomfortable thinking. I wanted to call and apologize, truly apologize, not just for firing you, but for how I treated you, how I've treated people throughout my career." Derek's voice cracked slightly. "I convinced myself that being tough was the same as being effective, that results justified methods. I was wrong." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "Derek, I appreciate you calling. That takes courage." "I'm in therapy now," Derek continued, "starting to unpack why I became that person. I don't expect forgiveness, and I'm not asking for my job back. I just wanted you to know that what happened, it changed me. I'm going to be better." "I hope you are," Marcus said sincerely. "Everyone deserves a chance at redemption, Derek. I meant what I said. You're talented, but talent without character is dangerous. Work on the character part, and you'll find your way." After hanging up, Marcus felt something he hadn't expected. Hope, not just for NovaCore, but for the possibility that people could actually change. 6 months later, the transformation was undeniable. Marcus stood in the same auditorium where he'd delivered his speech, but today was different. Today was the company-wide celebration of NovaCore's culture reboot achievements. The numbers on the screen told a story. Employee satisfaction up 67%, management complaints down 82%, voluntary turnover down 45%, productivity up 23%, revenue up 18%. But the numbers only told part of the story. Marcus had continued his undercover work, spending 2 weeks in customer service, 1 week in the warehouse, and a week in software QA. Each time, he learned something new, met incredible people, and identified areas for improvement. But more importantly, the fact that he kept doing it, that it wasn't just a publicity stunt, had fundamentally changed how employees viewed leadership. The ombudsperson position had been filled by an external hire, a retired federal judge who took no nonsense from anyone. She'd investigated 47 cases in 6 months, resulting in 8 terminations, 12 demotions, and significant policy changes. The ethics hotline received an average of 15 reports per week, not because things had gotten worse, but because people finally believed they'd be heard. Sarah Chen, the sales employee who had stood up to Derek, had been promoted to team lead. She was using her platform to mentor other young employees on standing up for what's right. New management training had been completed by 100% of managers, with a 30-day mandatory coaching period afterward. 3 managers had voluntarily stepped down from leadership roles, recognizing they were better as individual contributors. And perhaps most remarkably, NovaCore had become a case study not just in business schools but in organizational psychology programs. Marcus had been invited to testify before Congress on workplace culture reform, but as Marcus looked out at the crowd of employees celebrating their progress, he knew the work wasn't done. It would never be done. Culture wasn't something you fixed once. It was something you maintained, nurtured, protected every single day. After the celebration, Marcus found himself back in the facility's break room, the same place he'd spent many mornings during his undercover stint. The current facilities manager, a woman named Rosa Martinez, was organizing supplies. "Rosa," Marcus said, "mind if I help?" She smiled. "Mr. Chen, you don't have to." "I know I don't have to," Marcus interrupted gently. "But I learned something important 6 months ago. This work matters. Every job matters. And I never want to forget that." They worked side by side for 20 minutes, restocking cleaning supplies, and Rosa told him about her daughter's quinceañera and the challenges of balancing shift work with family life. Marcus listened, really listened, and when they were done, he knew more about Rosa's life than he knew about most of his vice presidents. That evening, Marcus drove home to Linda, thinking about the journey. It hadn't been comfortable. It had been messy, painful, and at times terrifying, but it had been necessary. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It read, "I'm a janitor at a Fortune 500 company. I saw your story. Today my manager spoke to me with respect for the first time in 3 years. Thank you for showing that every job has dignity." Marcus showed the text to Linda when he got home. She read it and smiled. "That's why you did it. That's why I'll keep doing it," Marcus agreed. As he sat down for dinner with his wife, Marcus Chen, billionaire CEO, former janitor, and advocate for workplace dignity, felt something he hadn't felt in years. The bone-deep satisfaction of knowing his work mattered. Not the products they built or the money they made, but the way they treated people. That was the real measure of success. The next morning, Marcus would return to NovaCore's headquarters, where a new challenge awaited, expanding their culture initiatives globally to all 47 of their international offices. But tonight he was just a husband, having dinner with his wife, grateful for the lesson he'd learned while pushing a cleaning cart. Every person deserves respect. Every voice